Start recording. All right, cool. Welcome. This is the undergraduate research and graduate school meeting. This is in collaboration with GDSC and UCSC's ACM organization. So if I can get clicker to work. All right, some quick announcements before we begin. Let me unfreeze the screen. If you are interested in research, which I assume most of you are, because that's why I hope you're here, ACM is hosting a undergraduate research conference where we'll have undergraduates present some of the work they've been doing along with some industry speakers to talk about what they're doing. We have a bunch of food planned, breakfast, lunch. If you can't make the whole thing, that's okay. But if you want to come join in, see what people are doing, listen to some talks, go ahead and RSVP there. It helps a lot with figuring out how much food we need to get and all that stuff. But if you are also doing research and have a paper you're working on or something like that, come talk to me a bit afterwards. We can see if we can get a spot for you to present at this session. So if you're interested at all, go ahead and RSVP. That'd be great. And we'll see you on May 28th, which is a Tuesday. There'll be a lot of food there. All right, so today I'll talk about four main things. So one, what is research? Kind of trying to find where that is. What does it actually look like specifically for undergraduates? How do we get into research? Because I know a lot of people, they say they're interested in it, but then what do you do? How to contact TAs and professors, and then stuff about graduate school. What do you do? What are they? All that fun stuff. All right. Without looking at the screen, what do you guys think of when you think of research as an undergraduate in CS, CE, or whatever field that you're in? Yeah, take a shot. You know, for computer science, I don't know if that's what we do, but definitely like biology and chemistry and all the other stuff. Does anyone ever else have any thoughts? What do you think when you think of research for whatever major you are? What do you think of? Yeah. Mhm. Oh yeah, absolutely. I think that's probably the best way of describing research. It's really finding out stuff that we don't know a lot about. For you said procedurally generated levels. Obviously, there's some stuff to know about that, but there's always more to learn about it. So really research is learning things that haven't been fully understood. And so as an undergrad, we're probably not going to be developing too much novel information, right? We barely know data structures for computer science. We're not building brand new things, but we can certainly help make an effort toward these. And so a lot of what undergraduate research ends up looking like is working with professors, with grad students on their projects. And if you're lucky, maybe you can go off on your own independent work and make something novel. And so throughout the slides, you'll see a bunch of fun and interesting pictures that I have. If you can't see them, let me know. I can find a better image and zoom in. But here's a fun one I found about your level of knowledge throughout time, where when you are in elementary school, you know barely anything, and you slowly grow. And then by the time you have your bachelor's degree, you kind of have a small specialty. But even then, it's still within the scope of human knowledge. And eventually, if you go through a master's degree, you slowly start to gain some more knowledge, but it's still within the scope of what people have seen before. Eventually, you go to PhD, and boom, you do your thesis, and you've made a dent into what the world is known, what is known in the world. So it's just a fun thing. Like no matter what all the things that you know is only going to be a small scope of the total human knowledge, but it's always really cool to make a difference with your research. So I know we talked about this, but research as a whole has a pretty decent cycle where one, you have to find a problem. This is very similar to most software or most engineering projects. You find your problem, you figure out a little bit of background, come up with an idea solution, go ahead, test it, and boom, you can write some results. Nothing too interesting about the scientific method. I'm sure all of you guys have seen this probably middle school, elementary school, but the scientific method, it's nothing special even as we go up through the ranks of undergraduate. And for research, so is everyone here interested in research? Can I get a raise of hands? Who here is interested in research, whether they're already in research or they want to join it. Perfect. All right. Why? Why do you guys want to do research? I know I have some things up here, but someone want to give a shot about why they want to. Yeah, yeah. You are absolutely right, and there's nothing to be ashamed of that. Any experience is a good experience, especially if you want to go on and you do a lot of things with research that will help you um, learn, grow your skills, and that's a perfectly like great reason to want to do research. You had to raise your hand raised. Mhm. Oh, absolutely, yeah. You find your topic, you want to learn more about it. Research is the best way because in order to make a brand new statement in the world, you have to know, you have to learn what's already known. And that's a really good way of really diving deeper into these different fields. Does anyone else want to have an idea of like why they're interested in research? Because all of you guys said you're interested, but I'm sure everyone has reasons. Yeah. Oh, absolutely. It's such a cool idea to be able to say, hey, I've impacted the world. I was the one that came up with this idea. That is an amazing feeling to have, I'm sure. Hopefully all of us will be able to get there one day. But yeah, there's a lot of reasons to get in research. These are some of the four main common ones. Like you learn a lot. I know you said you're interested in computer architecture. You go really deep into a field. Like as I showed in the previous like image, this one, you really just keep getting like thinner and thinner into your knowledge of a specific field. You become absolutely like expert in whatever you are specializing in. Work on the forefront of technology. You get to build something that has never been done before. It's this really cool concept. And also, it's good for jobs. You gain the experience that is super necessary and helpful for getting jobs because, as we know, getting jobs is really competitive now. And what better way of standing out than to show your expertise on a subject matter that you find interesting? And obviously, for fun. You might like it just because you're having a good time. As a funny comic that I found online. I spent a lot of time looking at comics, so if you can't read them, I need to make them bigger. Let me know because I think those are pretty fun. So undergraduate research sounds really cool, but oftentimes it's not exactly what we would expect. Is anyone here in any undergraduate research groups or doing research right now? Would you like to give a sample of what type of work you do on like a day-to-day basis? Yeah. Oh, I'll get to that stuff eventually. But before I continue, can I get a quick poll of what majors everyone is? Can I get a raise of hand if you are a computer science major, just to see what the audience is like here? All right. Computer engineering, computer science, game design, Any electrical, robotics engineering type majors? Anything else I'm missing? Any psychologies, cog sci? Okay, cool. All right, that sounds great. So everyone here is working with either computers, software, or something related to electronics. So I'm personally, I work in computer science and AI, so a lot of what I'll be talking about is mainly going to be focused towards software end of things. Yeah. No, no, absolutely not. It's just I have the most expertise in the field, but it'll look similar for engineering. With engineering looks very similar to what. Oh, bio, I'm sure there'll be a lot of things that will relate, especially when we get to like talking to professors. Um, for this slide in particular, I'm sure this will look different for than what you'll be doing with her bioinformatics. There's more slides that will pertain a lot more to the general population. So undergraduate research for computer adjacent fields is honestly, it's not that shiny or fancy. It all comes down to the basics that you would see in any software engineering problem. You're going to be working with code, whether it's code that has already been set up before, because a lot of work is running other people's work. So someone else has created a code base to solve a problem. Well, to start your work, you might have to figure out how to get theirs running, um, debugging, all sorts of things. And it's very much going to be similar to software engineering as a undergraduate researcher. And one thing that will be common, regardless of what you're doing, is reading research papers. That is the bulk of what research is, no matter the level. As in order to build a novel thing, you have to know what already exists. And so that's what research papers come in. And if you've ever seen a research paper, they are very, very dense. Who here has read a research paper in the last like 6 months? Cool. We'll take a look at some probably later in the presentation then, because they are very daunting. They will be daunting for a while, but eventually you'll get used to them as you read more and more and become specialized in a specific field. But research can look like a lot of different things, but for the most part, for computer adjacent ones, they will be very code heavy, usually assisting with running experiments and general debugging for grad students. It's not the nicest way to put it, but we're kind of the guinea pigs for professors in the grad students, which makes sense because eventually we'll work our way up the food chain, and by then we'll have our own undergrads doing our busy. So all of you guys said you're interested in research. A lot of you are looking for it. What do you do next? Well, there's a lot of different steps. I'm curious to see, what do you guys think would be, or things, what are some things that you guys are doing to help get into research? Yeah. Absolutely. That is the number one advice I give everyone. Go out and talk to the professors. Office hours is by far the best way to go meet professors, learn about these things, and to join labs. Even if there isn't openings, you'll learn a lot about the field. They might even refer you to other people. Anyone else have any other ways that they've tried to get into labs? Well, found this handy dandy flow chart that you guys can totally read uh, about joining research labs. Let me pull up a higher quality. Have the link down here. This is one I found online that I thought was relatively accurate. I think that's you can find all the slides. There's a tiny URL at some of the ones at the bottom, but for the most part, we'll be following this. I'm assuming everyone here is an undergraduate. I think I wrote that. Okay, raise your hand if you're a freshman. I'm sure we have a lot of freshmen here. All right, sophomores, juniors, any seniors? One senior, nice. Are you going to be done this quarter? Oh, okay, cool. So you're almost done. You thinking about grad school, or maybe? We'll see if we can find out soon. And so here's a little one I found. This was specifically made for Cornell, but it's very applicable to what we're doing here. And so I think that the best way is to learn. You have to first learn about what field are you interested in. I'm sure a lot of the people that are first years, you've seen computer science, but you don't really know all the different things about it. So right now, you're still probably looking for things that truly interest you, and you're taking, CSE 30, the basics, data structures, and same with all the other majors. You have your classes that you are still learning, getting basics of, but eventually you'll start to find different specialties of classes. And this is where you can truly like start to get a better grasp of what specifically do you want to work in. So going different classes, is there a class that you in particularly are really excited about? And that's something that those are the classes that you should really prioritize. So you find a class, you go ahead, go in it and talk to the professor. This is the easiest way. You're in a professor's class of something that you like, you have the best and easiest access to talk to them. You have their office hours, you can talk to them after classes. It's the best way of getting them. So the next part is actually going up to talk to them. I don't know about you guys. I don't have, I know I talk a lot and not the, clearly I'm not too shy amongst audiences, but I don't have the confidence just to go up to a random professor, I guess, and just say, hey, I would like to talk with you and join your lab and like that. And that's perfectly okay. If you aren't comfortable, you can always go and email them. I'll go a little bit into depth later on what it means to email a professor and to try to get to them. But if not, you can always go in person and talk. I'll go into further depth of this flowchart later, but it's just some starters to get you thinking about what to do next. Just following this is a pretty decent way of getting started with figuring out what to do. So just some references for later. All right, let's go back to the slide. So as I mentioned, first thing you want to do is find a topic that you're interested in. Who here knows exactly what they want to be doing for the rest of their life? Figured. Um, I know a lot of you guys, you found your major, but there's so much more specifics about your major, even within subtopics. So for instance, computer science. I realized early on I was really interested in AI, but there's a lot to AI. You can't just say, oh, I want to do research in AI. There is different subfields of, reinforcement learning, explainable AI, which is what I'm doing. All sorts of these fields just keep getting smaller and smaller, and you really have to find what you're interested in. So we'll go into a bit about how exactly you can go find these. Once you've found a topic you're interested in, you want to find other people that are also interested in the same thing as you, whether that be joining organizations, talking to professors, hell, even going to Reddit and finding interesting posts that you find in specific subreddits. But all of that eventually gets you to joining a lab. So we'll do a little exercise together about how to find different fields of interest. So I have here a link to the Basket School of Engineering, Computer Science and Engineering Research Fields website. I'm sure you can find your own majors resources online just by searching up whatever major and the research for UC Santa Cruz is. But go ahead, and if everyone can just go to that website, if you want the link to the slides, it's down here below. Or you can quite literally just look up this and Google will be the first. And it should look something like that. So go ahead, check that out. See if there's anything that immediately like perks your eyes. Is there anything that's specifically interesting to you? Like for instance, here's a quick snapshot of what that page looks like. It'll say, hey, the overall topic, algorithms, logics, and complexity. And I'll tell you the different faculty involved in each of those work, along with a quick summary of them. And that'll get you started with it. Yeah. Not necessarily needing people, but this is what is being currently researched here at UC Santa Cruz. And so go ahead, go to that website, find like 2 to 3 like overarching topics that you find interesting. And from there, we can go a little bit deeper, but we'll give you guys like about a minute to kind of just briefly look at the website, see what types of things are interesting for you. And then I'll go ask you guys what types of fun things you guys found. I mean, it very similar to what we're talking about. Like, you find professors in the that course, and you read papers about what they've been working on, help to see if those are stuff that you're also interested in. It's a really great way to get your foot started in the undergraduate research. Other ways you can get resources is Medium articles, YouTube videos, and of course, just take UC Santa Cruz courses, right? You'll meet the professors there. I've talked about this a lot. You'll learn a lot from those courses as well, especially getting to the fun tidbits that professors are really interested in. I also mentioned that networking is really important. If you are interested in something, there is like guaranteed there's going to be other people also interested in it. If you're the best way to find those is through clubs and organizations like the ones that you're in here today. If you are interested in AI, join Santa Cruz AI Club. If you're interested in robotics, computer vision, there's always AutoSlug and Slugbotics. If you're into computer security, Slug Security. I don't know. I think there's a bioinformatics club, if I'm not mistaken, as well. I think that they're pretty well organized as well. So join different clubs, meet people that are also interested in the same similar things, because you have no idea how far these networks can help you along to joining labs, learning about new things, finding new interests. It's a really great way of expanding to different research problems. Yeah. Oh, absolutely. So does everyone here have a Discord? I'm assuming most people do. If you connect your UC Santa Cruz email to your Discord account, you get access to the UC Santa Cruz Student Hub, and that will list all the discords that are related to UC Santa Cruz, whether it be class of 2026, 27, the Crown College Discord, CSE 147 Discord. It will show you all the discords, including clubs and organizations. That's a really good way of finding what exists as well. You don't need to create a new Discord account. You could just use the one you're currently in. I'll look up student hubs, they're called, for Discord. There should be a way of connecting your UCSC account and having access to it. Yeah. No, there's all sorts of clubs. I mean, ACM, DSC, we're not specifically sponsored by a class at all. Even the ones, there's a cat girl Discord. You can find all sorts of stuff from tabletop club, video game design. There's all sorts of club stuff. There's a lot of different interesting things you can find on the student hub, but you should definitely, if you're not on it, take a look at it, see what exists. You might meet some really fun, interesting people. So hypothetically, you've now found what topics that you're interested in. Hopefully, you've also found professors that might be doing work in a field that you also enjoy. And the best way to learn again is to go to their websites. A lot of their websites will have what they specialize in, some of their recent work. But most importantly for us that are trying to find research labs, they'll also give you a better idea of how to either contact them or information on their lab. Not all professors will have fully up-to-date websites. Some will look like they were made in 1990s. But there's always the first place you should start, because I know for sure if you email a professor and you email them a question that was on their website, they probably won't respond and probably won't have a good first impression of you as well. So always go check their website. Here's an example of Professor Razvan Marinescu's website. And on his website, it specifically says how you should go about contacting him or go to join his labs. Yes. I mean, you should always be checking their website first, even if you're in their class or taken their class before or whatnot. Always look at their website first to see what they're interested in, because there's a chance it specifically says, I am not taking undergrads at this time. You're just wasting your time to go up to them and ask them for a position. So yeah, always check their websites first. They will probably be very happy that you've checked it as well. And yeah, make sure you actually read everything on their website. You can actually hit it back. You don't have to read everything on their website, but make sure you go through their website to make sure you get the most up-to-date information about what their interests are, what they're looking for, all that jazz. Okay, I think I've already done this, but does anyone else have any fields that they were particularly interested in, or found any professors that work in those fields that they might be interested in? Any things? All right, cool. We'll move on. So joining research labs. This is the zoomed in portion of the same flowchart I showed earlier. Fortunately, joining research labs is not the easiest thing. And for the most part, most labs are not looking for undergraduates, especially in impact fields of computer science. I'm not 100% sure about the biology or bioinformatics field. And so more often than not, you will be the one that has to seek out them, not the other way around. Sometimes professors will ask, hey, is there students that are interested in research because I have positions open? And sometimes we try to stay in contact with professors. I know there were a couple times where a professor came to me and said, hey, can you spread the word? I'm looking for new members. And I've made a post on the Discord or two about that. But for the most part, you guys will have to be the ones that go out of your way to join these labs, or ask to join labs. The best way, just like anything you want in life, is to talk to someone in person. I know it's probably not all of our favorite things to go up to someone and actually talk with. This is by far the best way. I've talked with multiple professors while making the slides. This is their number one thing. If you can get them in person, that is the best thing. If you're in their class, you are set up for success. You have access to them again after lecture, during office hours. Even if it's not specifically the professor that you want to work in, the graduate students are also a huge thing, because you might be doing undergraduate research and not be working specifically with a professor. You will be working oftentimes with the grad student, whether it's a master's students or PhD students. These are the ones that are going to be your TAs, the ones leading your sections. Talking with them is a really great way to get your foot into the door. So make sure you're going to your TA sections, and I guess the regular sections as well, to learn more about some of the work they do. I mean, one of the ways I was able to get into Professor Leilani Gilpin's lab was through going to an 8 a.m. TA section that no one else showed up to. So it just ended up becoming me and the TA just talking about what some of the work that he's done. So make sure you're going to both professors' office hours, your TA's office hours, just really networking and talking to them in person. Learning about what they do is the best way of getting your foot into the door for research. And also, of course, talk with the students in the research labs, whether they're undergraduates that you know that are in the labs or the grad students. They will probably have better understanding of how the lab works, whether they're looking for members, basically getting the inside scoop about it. So if you want to join one professor's lab, you can go to their website, see what grad students they are working with. Maybe you can then email the grad students if you don't want to talk to the professors. Maybe your friend knows someone that's in the lab. You can always talk to them. These are your really good and underutilized resources for that. And even us officers, if you want to learn about different labs, ask us. A lot of us do research. I know not everyone, but a lot of us like to do this type of stuff. And so we're always a good resource for trying to understand the field of this. And also, an interesting thing that your mileage will vary. It's going directly to a professor's office in person, even when they don't have office hours. I was talking to a couple of professors on that, and it will differ from professor to professor. But for instance, if their door's open and they're not working, you could come in and say hi. If they're busy, kind of read the room. But you can definitely talk to professors in person. I'll have another slide on it, but a cool thing you can do is you can actually check different people's availability on Google Calendar. I don't know if you guys use Google Calendar, but professors definitely do. And you can look up how busy or when people's schedules are open. And so this is one way of finding out, okay, maybe I'm not in a professor's class, so I don't know their office hours. Again, you can talk to students who are and join it through that way. Or you could see maybe this professor has a schedule open here. Drop by their hallway, see if their door is open, something like that. A lot of different ways. Another interesting thing is, do any of you guys know about the different talks and series that different departments hold where they have like speakers come in? Has anyone been to those different events? I know there's one earlier today. Well, you guys should definitely check them out. There's plenty of speaker events. There's a weekly CSC colloquia. I don't know what that word means, but I think it's just a bunch of speaker events. A lot of different things from different industry leaders. They're really great ways to, one, learn what the heck is happening in the world, and two, there's going to be professors there. You're going to be able to ask questions. The people there are all going to be interested in similar things. Those are really great ways to start networking. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I have a link here. If you're part of Baskin or engineering for any of those, you just go look up UCSC Baskin events, and it's going to be the first link, and it'll have a calendar of every single event that's happening. Um, I think that is the best way. Also, following, I know they send like the undergraduate newsletters. Those will oftentimes have a lot of different events. But yeah, just looking up Baskin events will get you to the website that has it. And cold email. I know this probably isn't the best way, but if more often than not, you'll have to do this. And even talking with professors, they realize that this is an inevitability. You will have to email professors at some point to get a hold of them. And I don't know if you know, professors are really, really busy. I wish you could see how many emails they get, especially during the start of quarters when they get the mass flood of, can I have a permission code to get into classes? All that fun stuff. But sending professors emails is a really important thing. And it's also a skill that you guys should really learn. So there's a lot of different things seeing I'm running out of time, but a lot of different things you should follow. You guys can check out the slides later for more details on this. Here's a quick template you can use that really shows your interest in the topic. Again, to get a professor's attention, you want to show that you're actually interested in what they're doing. If a professor sees, oh, you just want this just because you're bored or you want to get paid or something like that, they're going to immediately not think about it. But if you start, I won't say stroking their ego isn't the best word for it, but if you start showing that you have done research on them, it's something that you've looked into, they will be a lot more likely to respond. Again, follow this template, look at previous slides. You can find some really great resources online as well. And it's okay to email a lot. I don't know if you guys have tried doing internship applications. I'm sure you guys have tried applying internships or jobs. It's going to work the same way. Don't take it negatively if a professor doesn't reply or says they're busy. It very much is a numbers game. I've talked to professors, they say it's a numbers game. What are you going to do? Whether professors are busy, they aren't having spots. So just, I'd say don't email any more than 5 at a time. Have your 5, go look at the 5 professors, look into them, read some papers from them, email them, but don't email more than have 5 outgoing emails at a time. Do you have a question? All right, perfect. And follow-ups. If you're afraid that you're going to bothering professor by sending them a follow-up email, you're absolutely not. If you don't get a response within a couple days, feel free to send them a follow-up. A lot of times they just miss your email because they get so many, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with it. Send them 1 or 2, definitely not more than 2 follow-up emails, but there's nothing wrong with sending follow-ups. Yeah. Mhm. I'm gonna be honest, it probably doesn't matter 100%, but I think the way that they did it here, where they sent it as a separate email, they said it pops up as like a separate thing, and then you include the original email below. So yeah, it probably won't make that much difference, but if you were to go for one, just send them a new email. Say, hey, follow up or something like that. Yeah. Oh, in person is way better by a million times. If anything, if you say, hey, I'm really interested in that, you'll just end up meeting with them. They're like, hey, meet me at so and so time, which will end up being their office hours or something. But yeah, no matter what, try to go in person first. That's like your best bet. If you can't do that, email. Yeah. No, professors understand that. Like some professors will want you to have taken their classes already. I can't tell you exactly which ones or what. That depends on the professor. I've talked to a bunch. They have different opinions. But if you haven't taken the class already, just say I'm really interested. Maybe you haven't. Oh yeah, absolutely. You could say, hey, I know I had a previous email attempt that was like, hey, I'm really interested in um, computer security. I took CSE, blah, blah, blah with so and so, and I've really enjoyed it. And then I've done X further research into it. I saw your work and it was really interesting. Just saying about a little bit about, okay, why you're interested in it. Maybe the equivalent class is what you got you started in, that kind of thing. Letting them know that you are interested in a little bit of background is a really great. Here's another example. This is actually from a high school student. This was an actual email that one of my professors got and actually told us, was like, hey, I got this email from a high school student and it was really well worded. So even though this is a high school student and not a college student, this is something you can kind of look at and kind of see what is something that professors are looking for. Again, don't copy this one. This is a high school student, but if you read this in your own time, you'll get an idea about what professors are looking for. All right, some random things. I know I've hit a couple of these already, but some random things. This is some notes I had when interviewing professors for this. But research comes in phases in the way that sometimes professors are just not looking for people because they don't need help with whatever. Maybe they're just in the reading phase. But then maybe 2 months down the line, they all of a sudden need to run a lot of tests and they need more undergrads to help them with this. And so you never really know when a professor is going to be in these phases of research. And so, like I mentioned, this is very much a numbers game. You might have hit at the perfect time right when they're looking for members. Maybe you didn't. The more you email out, the more you reach out to professors, the better chances you have. And this is an actual quote that I got from Professor Peter Alvaro about it. I don't know if you've seen I forgot the advertisement, but it was fortunate favors the bold. I know it's not yeah, that was from FTX. Technically, it was a fortune favors the bold, but that was something that I got from Professor Alvaro as well. Or the people that end up having the most success are the ones that go out of their way to reach out, to really try things. If you reach out to a professor and they don't respond, that's nothing bad's going to come out from that. Another interesting tidbit was that um, being a senior student, junior student, like an older student has its benefits, but so does being a younger student. Some professors say, hey, I could teach a student like everything in the field, but I can't really teach them how to learn, essentially. In that, just because you are a senior student and might know more background research, you have less time with the professor, so they have less time to, I don't know, shape or mold you in a specific field. So just because you're a sophomore or just getting into the field doesn't necessarily always put you at a huge disadvantage to people who have taken all the upper divisions. So no matter where you are in your academic career, it's always a good idea to try to reach out. Some professors obviously prefer more senior students, some prefer some students, because no matter what background you come into, there's so much more that you'll still have to learn that everyone will be on a similar playing field by the first couple months into the research group. And don't take it personally if you don't get accepted. That's perfectly okay. Follow up once or twice, they won't get mad. When I talked about going to professors' offices outside of office hours, again, this is a lot of reading the room. Don't just barge in if they're clearly busy or something. Again, depends on the professor. If the door is closed, don't enter. They're usually in a meeting or they're busy. If the door is ajar, so slightly open, it's okay to knock. Just knock. If say, hey, I want to talk, and if they say, sorry, I'm busy, it's okay. They're not. It's not totally bothering the professor that much. Nothing bad will come up just by knocking on their door, especially if it's ajar. If it's open, it's completely fine. You can walk in and kind of wave or say, hey, I want to talk or something like that. It's perfectly fine. And even if you start talking to them and they look a little distracted, I mean, that's kind of to be expected when you talk to professor when they're not fully expecting it, but it's okay to go and talk to professors at their offices if uh, they're inviting students in these small signs. Another ways of getting to talk to professors is going to their lab meetings. This is kind of iffy, again, depends on the professor. This whole don't necessarily crash the lab meeting, just show up uninvited. But maybe at the end, if you see the professor, packing up, just say, hey, I'm really interested in some of your work. I would love to talk more. And maybe they'll say, hey, come visit me during my office hours at X time or something like that. Come getting to these professors in a lot of different creative ways is actually a a really worthwhile idea for getting to know professors. Um, yeah, as I mentioned, getting through graduate students is a good way. Talk to your TAs, go to your office hours, go to your sections, everything. Yeah. Yes. Yes, so that's one big thing. Interestingly enough, so I showed you the Google Calendar. You can look up professors. Sometimes if you zoom in, this all says they're busy for each of these tabs. Some professors don't anonymize their calendars. So you could literally see exactly what events they have and when. It's a little bit of a breach of privacy, but there's always a setting that they could change that. But that's one way. Sometimes it'll be on their website, but you can always talk to people in their lab. Again, so how to know whether someone's in their lab, hard to say, but you can always check their website for grad students and talk to them. Say, hey, when you're meeting them, maybe I can go talk to them afterwards. So networking, and you have a chance with that, right? Especially if you hang around the engineering building, you'll start to learn different professors' meeting periods. It's kind of funny. And cool. I think I already asked you guys about why you want to do research. So here's a fun comic I found. This is about undergraduates doing research. Not fully correct. This is a series I found called PhD comics that are more on the pessimistic side of what research looks like, but I thought some of them were really fun. Yeah, these are some cool things I like to. I spent way too much time looking up comics for this. I mean, I got really distracted, but I thought you guys would enjoy them. We'll move on. All right. Second half, now that we have like 10 minutes left, we'll talk about graduate school. Who here knows 100% that they're going to go to graduate school, that they're destined for that? Oh, cool. A couple hands. I'm expecting less. But yeah, graduate school is essentially a continuation of your undergraduate. And there's a lot of different reasons you want to go through them. And there's two main pathways you can go. There's your master's degree and your PhD or doctor of philosophy, which is a interesting idea. And if you're going into medical school, I think that's an MD, it's medical degree or something. All very different pathways, but these are the main ones I'll be talking about. So for master's degrees, those are 1 to 2 year programs. More commonly in the past, they were 2 years, but after looking at new programs, a lot of them are starting to be 1 year programs. And I know there's one at Berkeley for Master's of Engineering that's 1 year long. If you are a Santa Cruz student, which you all are, you could do the 4+1 pathway where you do your undergrad in 4 years and then get your master's in 1 year. There's a bunch of different options. It depends on the different programs, different schools each have their own. So make sure you check those out for master's degrees. Oftentimes they will be course-centric curriculum. So you'll be taking, again, 2 to 3 classes every single quarter for your entire stay of your master's degree program. And the best way to, when comparing programs, obviously, look at prestige. Obviously, the MITs of the world will look better than, unfortunately, like some UCs or whatever. But one way to differentiate them is by what their capstone is, what defines them. Some of them are research-based, where you work with a professor closely on a research project. And so if that's something that you're interested in, look for those in particular. Others are more project or engineering-based, and the graduation requirement might be to make a project that solves some problem, something like that. And so when you're looking at these programs, these are the kind of the main things you should be looking toward. And one important thing with master's degrees is just like undergraduate, they are not cheap. You will be paying for your education. I think for the most part, they cost the same amount as your undergrad. But you can get them to be cheaper based on if you TA for them. But for the most part, you'll be paying quite a high tuition. Yes. That's a great question. So, unlike undergrads, actually, master's programs the classes tend to be a lot easier, or maybe not easier, probably isn't the right word, but they're graded easier. So topics might be very difficult, but when your undergrad classes have your, let's say a C average, your master's and graduate classes will have like 90% of the class getting an A as being a completely normal thing. It's a really interesting change of events with how classes are structured as for graduate students. Again, it depends on the program. A lot of master's degrees don't even do research as part of them. Some of them are quite literally engineering or project based rather than research, because it's hard to do research in only 1 to 2 years. It's such a short time. You can't do that much research. That would be that's for the PhD. For master students, the best way I could describe it is quite literally a continuation of your undergraduate degree with a specialization in whatever the special capstone may be. But for masters, think of it as just extra more classes, an extension upon your undergraduate experience. Yeah, you have a question? Yeah. Yes. Because it's like you learn Calc 1 obviously is going to be easier than Calc 20. I'm making up numbers. But the professors are a lot more more stringent, less stringent, a lot easier on the grading side of things. So that's why you often see master's GPAs way higher than undergrads, but not something you really have to worry about when you go to graduate programs. So that's master's. So think of it in summary, 1 to 2 years where you're just a continuation of your undergrad, taking more classes, getting a specialization in a specific topic. For PhD, this is very different from your master's. This is a long commitment. This is 5+ years, depending on their program. Very rarely you graduate with your PhD in under 5 years. It's obviously it's been done before, but not necessarily as much. Specifically in America, if you go international schools, those have different lengths of PhD, especially the UK. And unlike masters, you're only taking courses for the first 2-ish years. And these courses are more often not identical to the ones that master students are taking. So the way I like to think of it is you are a master student for the most part for your first 2 years. And after that, you become your job becomes just research. And you'll be doing research during your first 2 years as well. But for the most part, you're a student and then you become a researcher. While you're in your PhD, your job is research. You get paid to do research. Unlike master's degrees, which you have to pay for, they will pay for your PhD degree. They will pay for your tuition plus a stipend. It isn't very much money, but at least you're not paying the school that you're working for, essentially. Yeah. So it depends on the program, the field, and whatnot. But for computer science, it's becoming more common for it to be undergraduate directly to PhD. And so that's something that you guys, if you're interested in research and might be thinking about PhD, it is not too early to be thinking about that right now. Because for me, I didn't really give a background about it, but I'm in my 3rd year and I'm going to my PhD next year at UC Irvine. So that's exciting. But yeah, undergrads going from undergraduate to PhD is becoming more and more common nowadays. I think when I went to the grad visit day, it was like 70% of the people I talked to were undergraduates that got accepted for PhD. So, so it's a 4th years, 4th years, fourth. But yeah, PhD it's becoming more and more common to apply to directly out of undergrad. So again, for summary for PhDs, think of it, you're a student for the first 2 years doing research, getting paid for research. And then after those first 2 years, your sole job that you get paid for is doing research for the school. That's your full-time job is to do research for the school. That is what your PhD is after those first 2 years. Unlike the master's degree, which is you just learning more, taking more classes. PhD this is your job now, essentially. And one thing that professors actually encourage their students who apply, not necessarily the students that have been accepted, is that what you can do is you can join as a PhD student, go through your 2 years, take all the necessary classes, and at that point, you're actually given your master's degree. You've passed a test or something. And after your 2 years, you're given a master's degree. And if there's, let's say, something happens in life and you realize you don't want to continue for the remainder of the 5 years, you could drop out after your first 2 years with a master's degree. And you have the same master's degree. It doesn't look poorly that you dropped out. There's no concept of that. You have your master's degree, and it was completely covered. Your tuition was covered, and you were paid for it. So if you are interested in your PhD but aren't fully sure, that's always a backup plan that professors will encourage you for. Obviously, the professor that accepted you won't encourage you to do it, but the professors that told you to apply probably will. Yeah. Significantly harder to get in. Significantly harder to get in. Yeah. Mm. That's a great question. So again, no matter what, depends on the school, depends on the program, depends on your advisor. For most part, for PhDs, you have an advice. You get accepted by an advisor. You don't get accepted, particularly like by the school. Like for instance, when you apply for undergraduate, you get accepted by the school, not by a particular professor. With PhD, you get accepted by the professor. The professor has to sign and say, "Hey, yes, I promise I will fund this student for the next 5 years," which is a huge commitment for them. And so you will be working with that professor, assuming everything goes right for the next 5 years. Yeah, on the next slide. So, how to know if a grad school is a good fit? I'd ask yourself these three main questions. What do you want to get out of schools? What do you want to get out of your undergraduate? Are you here to learn? Are you here to just get a good paying job? So, if you're here to just get a good paying job and you get one right out of undergrad, just take it that way. There's nothing wrong with not wanting to go to grad school. You have a job and that's what you're going for. Great. There's nothing wrong with that. But if you want to learn more, you want to get a specialty, you want to do research, maybe start looking into grad school. Again, grad school, a big part of grad school is doing research. I know master's degree don't necessarily always focus on research, but specifically with PhDs or you would want to have some interest in research. If you want to do research in computer science, PhD is usually the main track for it. It's not the only way. I know people that have made their way up like the corporate ladder to do research, but if you're interested in computer science research and that's what you know you want to do, go through grad school. That's your best bet. And also, is your undergraduate education enough? If you want to learn more, you want to specialize in something, you can go with grad school. And how many more slides do I have? All right, cool. Well, I'll quickly speed through them. If you're interested in grad school, the best way to set yourself up for success is to get started with research and experience. Joining as an undergrad researcher is really important. They want to see that you have experience in the field. If you are applying for machine learning, they want to see that you've done machine learning research. And we talked about how to get into that. Some time limits if you're in freshman year, just enjoy yourself. Take classes, have fun. Don't worry too much if you're a freshman. Once you're in your sophomore year, start to get involved in research labs. Again, do all the tasks we listed before. Help some grad students out, do some work. For junior year, this is where you want to start making more significant contributions to projects. If you're going for PhD, start thinking about or working on maybe an individual project. Talk to the professor, hey, this is something I'm seriously considering, and see if you can actually start getting writing a paper to submit to a conference, as those look really, really good on your applications and are almost necessary for getting into competitive PhD programs. And by the time it's fall senior year, it's time to apply. So make sure you've done all these tasks, had a paper submit if you're going to PhD specifically, and you're ready to apply. Application process, again, it differs for every school. Unfortunately, there's no common app or a single application that gets you through all of them. You have to apply to everyone individually, and they all have their own requirements. Oftentimes there'll be a statement of purpose. This is like a 500-word essay that says, this is the work I want to do. This is why I want to do it. This is my background. This is why I am a good fit for your program. Your personal statement, this is very dependent on the university. Some of them are basically a diversity statement. What type of problems have you helped in your community? They'll give you small prompts for that. Expect an essay or two on more personal things. A letters of recommendation. This is really important. This is why you need to start working and talking with professors early on. For master's degrees, you'll typically need 2 letters of rec. These are ones you can even get from professors that you took a class with and maybe sat in the front row, always ask questions for. That's perfectly okay for master's degrees. If you want to go to a more competitive or a PhD program, you're going to want them to be higher quality letters of rec. So that would mean actually working with them on a project. you're in the research lab and you work hard, you will get a good letter of recommendation from your professor. And for PhDs, you probably want around at least 3 letters of rec from professors, specifically professors. You cannot get letters of rec from your internship manager. You almost need to always need to have at least a PhD for it to be a good letter of rec. You need to know what field study, and if you're applying for PhD in some master's programs, you will need to list out which advisors you want to work with specifically, and it's also encouraged to email those advisors beforehand. Again, whether or not they respond is a whole nother thing. But yeah, I think that's it. Again, you can find all the slides below here. You can talk. I'll be here for a little bit longer. I can answer some questions. I did have to quickly go through the last couple of slides. But yeah, thank you guys for coming. If you have any questions, I'll be here for a little bit longer. If you want to, oh, just kidding, almost done. If you could please fill out our feedback form. This helps to get us to see what did you guys like about these workshops, help us figure out what we could do better to personalize it for you. If you have any ideas for what workshops you want to hear about, please fill out. Helps us out a lot, along with honestly just making sure that you guys, seeing how you guys enjoyed these things. But yeah, go ahead and check out the slides. They're a great resource. I have a lot of some templates, I've got some links to different resources you should look into. If you're interested in some things that we do, you can come talk to us. More than happy to talk about what I do. All sorts of fun stuff. So if you ever see me, say hi. Or that, I don't know. Yeah, thanks for coming. If you have any questions, I'll be here.